Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So I'm back for another Have Your Say video where I'll go through whether you agree with the outcome of this week's episode of RuPaul's Drag Race, and this episode is season 17 episode 8. So today we're going to be going through the episode, going through the results of the Have Your Say poll and whether you agree with the outcome, and I'll be talking about a little bit of drama to do with Lana Ja'Rae apparently having copied a look from Violet Chachki. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. So we find out that the challenge for this week is the Rusical, which is obviously a standard challenge on Drag Race, one that we all look forward to. And we find out that it is the Wicked Wiz of Oz, which is a mix of the Wizard of Oz, Wicked, and the Wiz. I always love Rusicals. I think it's one of the best challenges there is on Drag Race because it not only shows off the Queen's creativity and sort of singing ability, but I also love to see the kind of the thought process that's gone into creating these Rusicals. And we've had some really amazing Rusicals in the past. Let me know your favorite Rusical in the comments. Personally, mine is Shade the Rusical from season 6. I just thought it was such a cool concept, and I thought that Courtney and Adore did such a good job as like the lead roles, but there were so many other amazing characters. But let me know what your favorite Rusical is in the comments. Okay, so let's dive straight into the Rusical. I'll go through each Queen's performance in order in which they appeared. I'll give my thoughts on it, and then I'll also talk about the result of the yay or nay that you voted on as part of my Have Your Say poll. Okay, so first up we had Susie Toot as the Green Witch. I thought Susie did such a good job in this. Obviously, this was supposed to be the Elphaba character, being green, obviously. This is Susie's bag. We know that she can do this really well. She sounded good. She definitely hit all the beats. The dance was on point. Everything she did seemed very professional, as though she had done this a million times. So I felt very safe watching her performance because I knew she was doing a good job. I do think the role itself wasn't as much of a standout as some of the other characters, because I don't think it was as funny, but that's nothing to do with Susie, that's more to do with the writing. So I would definitely give this a yay. And you in the poll also voted overwhelmingly for yay for this as well. Then we had Jules Sparkles as the Good Witch. Now, this is obviously supposed to be the Glinda or Galinda character, depending on how you pronounce it, from Wicked. I thought Jules did such a good job with this role. It would be so easy to just kind of play this as kind of the goody two-shoes, whatever. But I really liked that she had all these funny facial mannerisms that she was doing. She was really connecting. She's, I think, really funny, Jules. I think she's unexpectedly funny. You think she's going to be just kind of a look queen from the way she presents herself, but she's actually really funny. So I thought she nailed this role. There was obviously the accidental nip slip as well, but that kind of added to the humor because I think she leaned into it. So I actually thought she did maybe my favorite of all of the different roles from this Rusical. So this would definitely be a yay for me. And unsurprisingly, you at home also voted overwhelmingly for yay for Jules. So then we had the trio, and the first person from the trio was Ariete as the Scarecrow. I always feel sorry for people who have to do a kind of a trio or a duo role because oftentimes you can get lost. They're usually not the most interesting of characters, or they haven't got the biggest part. Out of everyone in this trio, I do think Ariete maybe did the best on second listen because I think she actually nailed the vocals. And quite a few of you in the Have Your Say poll mentioned this and said that she carried the harmonies. And I think I do have to agree. If you listened back to it, you can hear Ariete through it, and I think she sounds the best. In terms of her individual performance, I really enjoyed it. I think she really committed to the character. I was a bit nervous because in previous acting challenges, she hasn't done that well. But in this one, I really enjoyed her performance and she sounded very good. So it would be a yay from me. And you voted mostly just okay rather than yay. I will say, I don't think she stood out as much as some other people, but I still would have given her a yay because it was a good performance. Then we had Lana Ja'Rae as the Tin Woman. This was okay. I don't think it was the strongest. It maybe was the weaker of the three in this trio. Lana, in my opinion, was really trying. I just don't think she quite nailed the physicality. This wasn't my favorite performance, unfortunately. I think Lana maybe was the weakest of this trio, and it is a harder role, so I can understand that a little bit. But I don't think she quite nailed it as much as I would like her to. I think compared to some of the others, she maybe just got lost a little bit. I think her characterization could have been a bit stronger, but she sounded decent, and I think she did a good job. But I think I'd have to give this a just okay, because it kind of got a little bit lost for me. And it seems that you agreed with most people voting just okay, but then also a decent amount of yay as well. And then finally in this trio, we had Lexi Love as the lioness. What I really appreciated about Lexi was in this particular performance, she did actually do the voice really well, because the original lion from The Wizard of Oz has a particular way of speaking and it's sort of a lot lower down here. And I think she did really well emulating that. I was kind of surprised that her costume did not seem the best of the three. It looked a little bit more on the simple side, although they were provided by production, so that's not Lexi's fault. I was just kind of surprised at how simple it was. I thought Lexi did a decent job, but I don't think it was a winning performance, but it was still a good performance and she sounded very good. So I would give this a yay, but maybe a yay / just okay. And you seem to mostly agree because most of the votes were for just okay, but then a decent amount for yay. So I guess somewhere in the middle. There was also a comment in my Have Your Say poll saying, Lexi's been fading into the background, but the edit and fan support still has me convinced she'll win the season. Perhaps she'll step up in the last half. And I do think I agree somewhat that I think she started off strong and she hasn't quite had a win or been at the top since then. And I wonder if that's part of the editing to try and give her an arc, because in this episode she did well, but she wasn't going to win. So I do think that was an interesting observation by whoever made this comment. They're anonymous, so I have no idea. Then we had Sam Starr as the Wicked Witch. Now, this was obviously Cher inspired, whoa. Now, there were a lot of comments about the fact that this was a Cher inspired character in The Wizard of Oz, so kind of what was it doing there? For example, one of my Patreon members, Annie, said, I love Sam and I'm happy she stepped out of her wheelhouse and loosened up, but what does Cher have to do with the Wicked Witch of the East or The Wizard of Oz at all? Honestly, the Cher bit on Drag Race is getting tired to me. And I do agree, it is weird that there was a Cher role because it doesn't really have anything to do with The Wizard of Oz, I believe. They did make that reference about the Wicked Witch of the Eastwick because The Witches of Eastwick is a movie Cher is in, but ultimately it doesn't make sense. But then that's not the Queen's fault. They're just doing a role that they got given. So really it's the writers and production's fault. If you think it doesn't make any sense, I don't think you can hold that against the Queen that had the role because they had no choice. But putting that aside, the fact that Cher obviously doesn't really have anything to do with this, I really enjoyed Sam's performance. It's actually very hard to do a Cher impersonation but do it well. We can all kind of go, whoa, and do all of that kind of stuff. But to do a Cher impression well and to not take it too far to the point where you maybe get into more kind of Elvis Presley territory, I think Sam did such a good job. She did the vocals really well. She sounded good. She sounded like Cher, which is difficult to do. She did the choreography well. She had the stage presence, the comic timing. So this was also maybe my favorite along with Jules. I can't really decide between the two. I both thought they smashed this. So I would definitely give this a yay. And you overwhelmingly said yay in your votes as well. So next we had Lydia and Corey as the two flying monkeys. I'll start with Lydia first. I think Lydia, of the two of them, definitely did the better job. I think her voice sounded better. I think she did the choreography better and the mannerisms better. I just think overall she did a decent job with a role that doesn't have that much to it. It wasn't a winning performance by any means, but for me it was definitely a just okay, maybe a yay, because there wasn't a huge amount to it, which isn't her fault, but I think what she had, she did a decent job with. And I think you agreed because you mostly voted for just okay, but then there were also a decent amount of votes for yay. Then moving on to Corey, who was the other flying monkey. I definitely think she got overshadowed by Lydia. Her voice didn't sound great in the recording, and she's not a singer, so as someone else who's not a singer, I can appreciate that it is hard to do that. Even with the most auto-tune in the world, if you haven't got a great voice to start with, it's not going to sound great. But I just don't think Corey really pushed the role as far as it could have been. She had definitely had less lines than Lydia, but she really should have sold those lines, and I just don't think she did. So unfortunately, I think this was maybe my least favorite role of the Rusical because I just don't think it really went anywhere. So I would unfortunately have to give this a nay. And it looks like you agreed, with the majority saying nay, but then a decent amount also said just okay. Next up, we had Anya Nerve as Harlem Dorothy. Anya did such a good job this week. I mean, she always does well. Her voice is amazing. She definitely could have a career as a recording artist. She sounds incredible. She did the role really well. They did show her struggling with the choreography, but I don't think you really saw that in the final performance. Maybe she didn't shine quite as brightly as I thought she could have done, but she still did a fabulous job. She nailed the characterization, the singing, everything. The choreography was also good. she definitely for me was one of the standouts, but maybe she didn't quite stand out enough to win, but she certainly would have been in the top. So I definitely would give this a yay. And you agreed because you overwhelmingly voted for yay as well. And then finally we had Acacia Forgot as Kansas Dorothy. Now I think this could be a winning part because you get the most stage time on your own as well. I just think that Acacia maybe didn't quite sell it. I think she seemed a bit more muted. I don't think she was quite pushing it to the point it needed to be. She sounded good, and I think I could see where she was going because it was a ballad, so it needs to be a bit slower. I just don't think she really gave it the oomph that it needed. If you're on stage on your own, you really need to command it, and I just don't think she quite did. She sort of seemed a little bit timid. Maybe that was the point because obviously the original character of Dorothy is quite sort of meek and shy and things like that, but she also does have this bravery within her, and I don't know, I just didn't quite think this worked. She did a good job, but it certainly wasn't one of the best of the night, so I would have to give this a just okay. And interestingly, you mostly voted for nay, and then after that was just okay. I'm not sure it was bad enough to give a nay, but yeah, it was not the best, but I don't think it would deserve a nay because I think she did actually do a good job with quite a difficult role. And then overall, I asked who gets the slay for the Rusical, as in the best performance, and you voted Jules Sparkles with 37.5%, Sam Star with 23.9%, and Anya Nerve with 22.5%. I think I would have to agree that I think Jules made me laugh the most and I remember her performance the most. I also think Sam did a great job because it was something a bit different because it was Cher, although arguably that doesn't belong in Wizard of Oz. But I think I would also have to agree and give the slay to Jules because she did do such a great job. Okay, so let's move on to the runway for this week, and the category was Parasols Shady Ladies. So a look with a parasol. As usual, I will talk about the fashion, but I'm obviously no fashion expert, so take it with a pinch of salt. So I'll say my feelings about the runways, and then I'll also say how you voted for the yay or the nay. Okay, so first up we had Susie Toot. This is a really nice look. I think the color is lovely. It's very simple compared to maybe some of the others, but it was done very elegantly. I really liked the way everything matched, and it definitely is something a bit different for Susie because she's done a lot more of the more kind of funny out there looks, and she's also done some very more dark and mysterious looks. So I appreciated that this week we had another interesting and slightly unusual thing that she's not done before. So I would give this a yay. You mostly voted just okay, but also a decent amount of yays. So yeah, I think I would agree. It was a yay, but maybe more on the just okay side. Next up, we had Jules Sparkles. This looked so amazing. I think black always looks great. The way that the beading matched on the parasol, but also on the dress, the makeup, the hair. Oh, she looked amazing. I think Jules always kills on the runway, but this one was one of my favorites because it was just so simple but elegant at the same time. My only slight thing, and this has nothing to do with Jules, is now that they've changed the Drag Race stage, because it's very dark in the background, I think it sort of swallows up all of the dark colors like black, so you can't see them that well. I'm pretty sure other people have mentioned this on like the Pit Stop or other shows on YouTube, but it definitely is something I've noticed now that I've seen it once. I do think that they need to change the background colors maybe if you have a darker outfit, because I just don't think it popped as much as it should have done. But I definitely would give this a yay because it was a fabulous look. And you seem to agree because you majority voted yay, but then a decent amount for just okay, which I was a little bit surprised at. I think it was definitely more on the yay side than the just okay side. Next up, we had Ariete. This was amazing. And when she came out, I was like, oh my God. I think the black and red always looks good. It looks very expensive the way she's done it. The makeup, the hair, the fact that it's a nod to her Latina heritage was just, mwah. I loved this. It was so good. Ariete always kills it on the runway, but to me, this was just done so well. I thought this was impeccable. No notes. Not that no one wants my notes because I'm not exactly someone who should be offering notes on fashion, but take it or leave it. So this was definitely a yay for me. And you seem to agree because most people voted for yay, and then some people said just okay. I personally don't agree. I think it was definitely a yay, but that's up to you. Next up, we had Lexi Love. I loved this outfit. The way she came out with the cane, and you think it's supposed to be kind of the pole for the parasol, and then it was actually just a cane. That was camp, but also really well done. This was an immaculate look. I loved the color. I loved everything about it, the way she styled it. She said that this was inspired by Schiaparelli. I actually did get that reference, and I know nothing about fashion, but I do know Schiaparelli. This was very much that, and I thought this was a fabulous look. I did see that Lexi said that she spent $55,000 on her runway package for the season, and I think in these sorts of outfits you can see that these are rich lady looks. These are very good and very well made, so this was definitely a yay for me. And you seem to agree with around 3/4 of people voting for yay. Next up, we had Sham Star. I don't know why RuPaul says it that way, I guess because it's funny, but anyway. I really enjoyed this look. It was very much giving Southern Belle, which is the way she was describing it. The fact that it was sheer, but it was also kind of embroidered in some way, that I really enjoyed. I did also see that apparently this look was originally her drag mother's, Trinity the Tuck, but I think Sam did make some changes to the outfit and she added some extra stones and some details and did change things about it. If I can find the explanation, I'll put it up on screen. And I have no problem, by the way, with people sharing the outfits or handing them down and changing them. I think that's actually a really cool story to have your drag mother and then drag daughter passing it down, because I don't think Trinity wore this on Drag Race to my knowledge, so who cares? No one else is going to have seen it if they're only watching Drag Race. So still a fabulous look. I would definitely give this a yay. And you seem to agree and you voted for yay as well. Next up, we had Lydia B. Collins. I did really enjoy this look. I think it was tiny bit on the more simple side because the top and the headpiece was really cool. And then I think the rest of it was more just sheer and it looked good, but maybe wasn't quite as elaborate as maybe some of the other outfits we've seen from Lydia. So I was expecting it to be a tiny bit more elaborate than it actually was. Still a fabulous look though, but maybe compared to some of the others, it wasn't quite as standouty. Is that a word? You know what I mean. And interestingly, the highest votes were for yay, but it was only just, and it was only about a percentage points difference between yay and just okay. I guess I would have to agree that it was between yay and just okay for me. Then we had Corey King. And it was interesting that obviously she, by coincidence, happened to do a Dorothy from the Wizard of Oz look on this week. I quite enjoyed this outfit. Obviously, we know Corey has not had the best outfits so far this season, so I think this is going to sound shady, but for Corey, this was good. And I don't mean that in a shady way, because Corey at Roscoe's this week even joked that a lot of her runways were a troll because she thought it was funny, like an in-joke that they were just not great. So compared to last week with the mime and everything, this week was definitely a step up. I thought her body looked amazing. It always does. The padding, the way it was done, it looked very well made, and I thought it was a clean, nice concept. So I would give it a yay, but maybe it was slightly more on the just okay side, so between the two. And you mostly voted just okay, but with a decent amount of yays as well. Then we had On Your Nerve. I really loved the color of this one. The fact that she did the yellow did make her stand out. It looked so elegant, but also so eye-catching. Anya really turns it on the runway because she has such a presence about her when she's presenting these looks. And it was that style of having the sheer on the outside, but then the undergarments underneath like the corset and the garter belts, but you can still see them because it's sheer. But it just looked really editorial, really interesting to look at. So this was definitely a yay for me. Interestingly, most of you voted for just okay, and then a decent amount for yays, but just okay got the most votes, which I was a little bit confused about. Maybe it wasn't as elaborate as some of the others, but I still thought this was a fabulous look. Then we had Acacia Forgot. My favorite part of this outfit has to be that wig that had the parasols within the wig stacked. That was a really cool and interesting concept, I think, behind the runway that no one else had necessarily done. Some people had them on their heads, but the fact that she incorporated it into the wig for me was something that really made her stand out. And in general, this was a really fun look. I don't think it was quite as memorable as maybe some of the others because the tones of the colors were slightly more muted, but that wig for me was the standout. So I would still give this look a yay. And it looks like you agreed with the majority voting yay, and then a decent amount for just okay, but yay was clearly coming out on top. And then finally we had Lana Ja'Rae. Again, I think Lana, this is no fault of hers, but the fact that she was wearing black, again, because the stage is just so black, it does swallow up a lot of the black in the outfits and you can't see them as much. And that's a real shame because I really enjoyed this outfit. It was simple, it was done very tastefully. I really enjoyed it. I just wish that Drag Race and the producers and everything would change up the stage lighting so you can actually see the details, because I found myself sort of sitting closer to the screen, zooming in, trying to see a bit more of it. But I really enjoyed this, so I would give this a yay. Interestingly, you mostly gave this a just okay. I wonder if it was because it was a black outfit similar to Jules's, but Jules's had jewels on it. I wonder if that's maybe why people said that. I still would have given it a yay though, because I think it was a clean, nice, elegant look. And then in terms of who gets the slay for the runway, as in the best look, this was very mixed this week. So for example, Sam Star got 39 with the highest amount. Then it was Lexi Love with 23.9. And then it was Ariete with 14.6. Although I did really like Sam's outfit, for me, the one I remember the most was Lexi's or Ariete's, because they were both just so elegant and beautiful. Maybe I would have to give it to Lexi, because the thing with the cane just really sold it for me, and the fact that it was this very structural, like she said, Schiaparelli-esque, that I thought was just such an interesting and eye-catching element to it, which really sold it for me. So I think I would also have to give the slay to Lexi Love. So moving on to the judges' critiques, and we find out that Lexi, Ariete, and Lydia are called safe. The thing that I thought was a bit weird is that left 6 queens on stage and they were kind of separated 3 and 3. Usually we have 3 tops and 3 bottoms, but when I saw Anya there, especially because she was on the right side of the stage with the other 2 bottoms, I thought that can't be right that she's in the bottom. But it actually turned out she was also in the top, so I guess it was 4 tops, 2 bottoms. So it kind of did take a little bit of the suspense away, because we knew who was going to be the bottom 2 by default. I guess because this Rusical, everyone did a good job, which some people did mention in the Have Your Say poll comments, that it was not the best Rusical, which I would agree with, but everyone did a good job. And I think overall, it was obvious who the bottoms were going to be. I think what was more interesting is what the tops were going to be. I didn't necessarily agree with them bringing up Anya's critique about the rehearsal and the fact that she was finding it difficult with the dancing. And someone did mention this in the Have Your Say poll and said, critiquing Anya for something that happened in rehearsal, really? Just say y'all didn't want to give her 3 wins yet. And I do agree, it was a bit of a weird comment to bring up. It kind of felt like an excuse to not put her as the winner or in the sort of the contention for the top. But later on, we find out the winner of this week's episode is Sam Star. So it's time to say congratulations to Sam. She did such a good job. The Cher impression was so good. I think she definitely did deserve it. I think unfortunately it's being overshadowed by the fact that people don't think Cher should have been in the Rusical to start with. That again is not Sam's fault, so I'm not holding that part against her. I think she deserved the win for that because she did do a fabulous job. I maybe though would have given it to Jules just because I found her performance to be funnier, and maybe because it did fit more with the Rusical theme, because she was an actual character from the 3 musicals they were talking about. And my Patreon Riot seemed to agree and said, I really wanted to see Jules win. I loved Sam and thought she did amazing, but Jules was on stage for the whole act and was always seen in character. That part is definitely a good point that I only sort of realized afterwards. If you watch her in the background, Jules, I mean, she was always in character. She was always doing a funny little facial movement or something. She was always reacting and very present. So that is definitely a good critique. And I think to me, that is what sold her performance so well. Interestingly, my Patreon Nat said, I agreed with the judging this week, but I really loved Lexi, Lana and Ariete's trio. They all did a great job individually, and then the 3 of them sounded good and danced so well together. I loved the choreography. Lexi so took on the cat characteristics and moved so beautifully. Okay, so now that we've talked about the winner, let's go on to the rest of the Have Your Say poll results, and then I'll talk about the lip sync and the elimination later. So question 5 was, did you agree with the winner? This one was very split, and it was 52.5% for yes and 47.5% for no. So it was almost 50-50. And then if we go on to question 5 continued, which was, if you didn't agree with the winner, who should have won instead? Now remember that only around 50% of the people who voted actually voted in this particular question, so it's not everyone. But of the people who did vote, 58% of people voted for Jules Sparkles to win, then it was Anya, then it was Susie. Okay, so now let's move on to the elimination, which we haven't talked about yet. Okay, so we find out that the bottom 2 are Corey King and Acacia Forgot. They lip-synced the song Wet Dream by Adam Lambert, who was the guest judge this week, and we find out that Corey wins the lip sync, which means that unfortunately Acacia is told to sashay away. Okay, so let's go on to the questions from the Have Your Say poll for this. We had question 6, did you agree with the elimination? 74.7% said yes, and 25.3% said no. And then question 6 continued was, if you didn't agree with who went home, who should have gone home instead? And again, this is not everyone who voted, it was only a percentage of people, but people overwhelmingly voted for Corey King, unsurprisingly, because she was in the bottom 2. I think Acacia was okay, but I don't think she really sold the role that she had, given that she fought for the role and it was arguably one of the bigger roles. I think unfortunately it's like a big swing and a big miss, whereas Corey, I mean, you can argue however you want to about what you want to give props to or whatever, but her role was very much flying under the radar, but she didn't necessarily do a great job. So I think it was more obvious that Acacia didn't do a great job because she was on stage for longer than Corey was. But I do think Corey maybe did do slightly worse than Acacia in the actual challenge. So question 7 was then, who won the lip sync in your opinion? And we did have 80% voted Corey King and then 19.4 voted for Acacia Forgot. I agree. I do think that Corey won this lip sync. Whether you agree or not with whether who should have been in the bottom or whatever, I do think it has to come down to the lip sync and then also track record. Corey's been in the bottom a few times, but Acacia also has been in the bottom before. So I do think it was either of their times. So then it comes down to the lip sync. And I do think that Corey sold the lip sync a bit more than Acacia did. Then question 8 was, who do you want to win the season? And we had Anya Nerve with 30.8, 15.7% for Susie Toot, and then 17.7% for Jules Sparkles. And interestingly, if we compare that with the next question, which was question 9, who do you think will win? In this one, we had 53.3% for Anya Nerve, 22.9% for Lexi Love, and Susie and Sam came kind of almost joint third because they were very close with 10.8 and 10.2. What I think is interesting is that these have really changed over the season. First of all, Lexi was always coming out on top, and then I think as the episodes have gone on, she hasn't been in the top very much, so I think that's kind of gone down a bit. And then Anya started to come up, Susie started to come up. But what I think is interesting is that Anya is now so much further ahead in the who do you think will win the season. Ultimately, I do think from what we've seen so far, Anya is going to win. She's been good at everything. She's done every challenge really well. I think she had some interesting edits and she's been involved in some drama, so she's had some storylines. Lexi, I think, kind of had the opposite, that she was strong at the beginning and maybe hasn't been as strong throughout the season. She's still very likable and she's sort of the mother of the season because of the way she is. But I do think Anya is sort of edging ahead now, so I do think she's likely to win. But let me know in the comments what you think. Who do you think is actually going to win the season? And is that the same as who you want to win the season? Also, just a quick thank you to everyone who left really lovely comments in the Have Your Say poll saying, thank you, Matt, for all of your work. They love your videos. Thank you so much. I do love seeing comments. It's unusual to get so many positive comments, so it's nice to actually read through and get an actual positive comment for once. So thank you to everyone who left these really lovely comments. Okay, so finally, let's move on to a little bit of light drama to do with apparently Lana copied a look from Violet Chachki. So recently on the No Gorge podcast with Violet Chachki and Gottmik, they brought up that someone had copied one of Violet's looks.
That we could talk about is that one drag queen that redid your outfit.
Oh, that is a fun hot topic for everyone, huh?
So
and although they didn't mention Lana's name, the fact they put up the picture of Lana obviously showed that that's who it was. So Violet explained that she did a look several years ago. I believe it was almost 10 years ago. And it was inspired by an Airtay drawing or sketch. By the way, I'm going to have to censor the Airtay sketch because it has bare breasts in it. I know this sounds ridiculous. I used an image once in one of my previous videos, which was a historical painting of a woman and she had her breasts out and it got flagged by YouTube for being inappropriate and my video was flagged. So that's why I'm having to censor it, just so you know. So Violet was saying that this look came from an Airtay sketch and it's quite an obscure sketch. So it then seemed quite odd that someone else would do something that is very similar. Violet also said that she made several alterations to the outfit and said that Lana made the same alterations, which was unusual.
And even in my original costume, there was like a little section on the hip where like I did have jewelry made to like connect it, almost like where the corset and my skin would like meet on the leg. Hers is literally exactly that concept and does not have the jewels on the original sketch, like on the hips.
So she's just copying yours. So it's your skin tone of bodysuit, because she doesn't get that you're supposed to be naked. She just thinks it's like a crystal dress.
Violet also said that she doesn't need credit, but she thinks that it's odd to go on Drag Race and copy a look from someone else. And ultimately, Violet said that she thought this outfit looked cheap.
So this is your opportunity. There's so many Airtay sketches also. It just looked cheap.
Also, quite a few other people noticed that Lana's look from last week did look very similar to a look that Violet had done in the past. And for example, someone tweeted a photo of them side by side and said, then why did she full on copy the bedazzled corset from Violet, considering the original sketch doesn't have it in? I'll wait. Anthony Canny then responded, and Anthony Canny, for those of you who don't know, is a well-known designer who has worked with Violet a lot in the past. And Anthony commented saying, because it's the best way to interpret the reference, I say that as the person who made Violet's. She also paired it with pearls like the Airtay, rather than chunky rhinestone jewelry like Violet's version. Brackets, that said, they really needed to stone it in her own skin tone and not Caucasian. And I also wanted to know if Lana had responded to any of these sort of accusations, people saying that she copied it. And for example, someone did tweet saying that this was Violet, but then someone said it's actually an Airtay reference and there's a world outside of Drag Race. And Lana then responded to that with exclamation marks. So it looks like Lana did in some way respond to this criticism that she was getting about copying supposedly a look from someone else. But it's not necessarily a copy of Violet. Violet used Airtay as a reference, and so did Lana. And after Anthony commented this to the Twitter user actually responded and said, I mean, you're also on bad terms with Violet, so I don't expect you to be on her side, but I will say your work is amazing and Lana easily could have done a full-on stoned bodysuit rather than just an exact same corset like Violet. And just in case you don't know about that reference, as I mentioned earlier, Anthony Canny is a designer and has worked with a lot of people, but Violet was one of the people he worked with for a very long time, I think over 10 years. And then last year, it seems that Anthony had a sort of falling out with Violet, and it happened on social media. So I believe what happened is Violet posted a picture of a look, and then Anthony posted this picture and said, not so cool seeing my work credited to @thediscodaddy. He stoned this dress, had zero hand in its construction, contrary to his statement about the design process, which came from @VioletChachki, and I did my best to make her concept a reality, as I have for nearly a decade. I made every corset and half of the wardrobe of her @Crazy Horse Paris Forever show, not a single mention, not even a tag. It's a shame that after so many years of working together, I still feel like I get so little public credit for the amount of heart and soul I have put into every garment I have created for her over the years. Violet then commented on it and said, darling, I love you and our working relationship. I designed this entire look and sourced these fabrics with my own two hands, paid and commissioned you to create the pieces, and then upon arrival had to commission and pay someone else to remake 80% of the pieces you made. The person credited on Vogue worked for free and did all of the rhinestone design and application, someone who strictly rhinestones garments for stage. I've always spoken about our working relationship publicly and even recommend celebrities and stylists to you. You're the only person I collaborate with who expects full payment and constant free publicity. Anthony then posted an apology and said, I must apologize, Violet remade 90% of this costume and therefore she had no need to really credit me, brackets. It also was not made by the person taking credit for it, just to be fair, so please stop taking it out on her. But it seems that Anthony and Violet had a falling out and then don't work together anymore, because Anthony then posted saying, it's official, after 10 years of relentlessly making time for one single client and rarely getting credit for it, I have let them go. It's so freeing. Just to make it clear though, this is nothing to do with the Lana situation. This is just background about this designer and Violet having a falling out in the past and no longer working together. But that designer is the one that made the outfit that Lana apparently copied from this Airtay sketch. And in general, I just thought this was an interesting topic, and the fact that someone is sort of getting accused of copying an idea from someone else. Let me know in the comments what you think about this and whether you think it's okay to take inspiration from someone else who in turn took inspiration from a sketch or another designer. Overall, don't take this drama too far. It is obviously just an outfit at the end of the day. It's not too serious, but I just thought this was an interesting concept and an interesting discussion to be had. So make sure you don't send any hate in the comments, please. So there you go, there was the Have Your Say for RuPaul's Drag Race Season 17, Episode 8. Let me know what your favourite Rusical of all time is, and let me know where this Rusical fell on that scale. If you'd like to have your comment featured in my Have Your Say videos, as well as get things such as early access to my videos, exclusive videos and content, please check out my Patreon and consider supporting me. It just costs a few dollars a month and it really does help support my channel, so please check it out and I'll put a link in the description. I'd also like to give a huge shout out to all of my Patreons. You are all absolutely incredible. I love talking to you about the Have Your Says or whatever it is. I love this community. The fact that you're there supporting me all the time, it really does blow my mind every single time. So thank you so much for your support. I can't put into words how much I really appreciate it. So thank you so much. Please make sure that you like and comment on this video to help tell the algorithm this is a good video and they should promote it to more people. Please just click subscribe. It doesn't take more than 2 seconds and it really does make a huge difference. Thank you very much for watching and I hope you'll join me again in a future video. Thank you. Bye.